everyone, welcome back to Tell Me How It Was. Today, we're talking about a genre that doesn't get talked about very often. There was a time when Bollywood rom-coms ran our emotional lives. We watched them for the music, we stayed for the yearning, and for better or worse, we learned so many of our relationship skills from them. Growing up in the 90s and early 2000s, we got love stories that felt intimate, messy, and endlessly rewatchable. And then somewhere along the way, they all just kind of disappeared. So today we're asking, what happened to the Bollywood rom-com? Looking back, are they really all we cracked them up to be? Did our tastes change or did the industry change? And in an era obsessed with scale, spectacle, and films that fit certain political agendas, is there still room and appetite for chemistry, charm, and songs shot in the Swiss mountains? Tell me how it was.
Oh, song shot in this. And I feel like there's one word that you missed in that, which is also unrealistic.
100% unrealistic.
Like, is there room
Songs
for,
shot in the Swiss mountains.
yeah, is there room for some unrealistic stuff
Yeah.
in a time
Yeah.
where everything feels too real?
Yeah, absolutely. So to kick us off, let's get down to just defining, right? That nostalgia question. What do you think gives those 90s, early 2000s rom-coms their lasting charm? Is it the storytelling, the stars, the cultural moment? Like what is it in your opinion?
So when we talk about this space, I really think about like for me, the heyday of the Bollywood romantic comedy. And I know there's a tradition of romance movies in Bollywood that like we're not even touching with this podcast, but I think for me, it was a combination of things. One is that the conflict was never beyond people's personalities and emotions. And I think that's where I always come back to it. Like the central conflict of these romantic comedies was entirely within these people. So whether it was misunderstandings because somebody misunderstood something, somebody felt something the other person didn't feel, but whatever it was, the conflict was very much within versus without. That's kind of what to me makes me feel like that's the central tension and fun of any romantic comedy, whether in Indian films or in Western movies and in Hollywood, that it's really focused on that because we have romantic tracks in every movie. We have romantic tracks in like action movies
Yeah.
and really good romantic tracks, like
Yeah.
solid, beautiful tracks that take the story forward. But the conflict there is generally something that's outside these people's controls. It's a war or
Yeah.
it's something happening outside them. And but in this, like the conflict felt contained.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those things maybe were rooted in some kind of like external societal system, like patriarchy, but it was never about like fighting against maybe that,
It
like that was
didn't
just
have
part of it.
That's such a good point. It didn't have a message beyond the like, let me find the love of my life and live happily ever
Yeah.
after.
If anything, it was like parents that they were maybe rebelling against and being like, parents don't know everything, or like true love outshines what your parents say about richness and poorness and class and caste and all that. And I think, kind of like you said, these films were not really chasing novelty. They weren't out there to make a statement. A lot of them were very formulaic. And, I think there was a whole batch of them in the early 2000s. Like, you could line them all up and I couldn't tell the difference. I mean, we had like all the Kim Sharma movies and we had like the Isha Deo. I'm like, huh? But they were speaking this language of romance that Bollywood already kind of understood very deeply, right? The stories were very familiar, like you mentioned, opposites attract, or families and lovers waiting for the others. But I think what made them so lasting was the emotional clarity with which they were told. Like there was so much conviction. There was no embarrassment about wanting the audiences to feel deeply, having the characters like just feel these big, big feelings. And we don't get that quite as much anymore. There's like a restraint to them now.
I agree. And maybe we could use this time to talk about kind of the recent crop of romantic comedies.
I was trying to think, like, what is an out and out rom-com that was released in the last few
I
years?
think so I think this year, well, not this year, but late last year, I think Sunny Sanskari truly tried to be Sunny Sanskari Ki Tulsi Kumari, which is which was apparently like a somewhat of a philosophical or somewhat of a sequel to the Badrinath Ki Dulhania series, apparently, was supposed to be an out and out romantic comedy,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
exes. Like four gorgeous leads, music at every like a music every 5 minutes, actually pretty good music. A
Hmm.
couple of them great music, big spectacle, wedding, like the entire thing is set in
Yeah,
a
wedding
wedding.
backdrop. Yeah.
So I think that was trying to be a romantic comedy. I think
Padam Sundari was one as well.
Param
That was,
Sundari was another one, which by the way just felt exactly like Chennai Express, except
oh yeah.
plucked from Tamil Nadu into a different southern state. Nadania, obviously we can't not talk about Nadania.
We have
Um, I think Nadania was a romantic comedy. Again, some familiar tropes, right? High school scenario or situation, misunderstanding, a little bit of like class came
to.
into it, obviously.
Wow, you just gave more meaning to that movie than I think
Well,
anyone.
they tried, right? I think a lot of these places really start from like meaning well, and then it kind of ends up in
Yeah,
a poor
of
place due
course.
to a bunch of factors, which we can talk about. Like, why aren't these movies landing? Like, why are they
We're gonna
not
get to that. Yeah.
getting there? And then when we compare these to like what I think we talk about when we talk about the heyday of romantic comedy is I think obviously the Shah Rukh Khan era, big ensemble cast, the Salman Khan era too. There's a marked difference between them. They're trying too hard now. It
Yeah.
almost felt like they didn't try that hard back then.
They didn't. But there was also this kind of sweet spot in the middle where we're talking about films that now try too hard and then films that were very formulaic. But then that, the ones that we were talking about in the early 2000s, like they were emerging. And I think this also speaks to why we feel so nostalgically about them. But they emerged during like a real kind of period of transition for India as well. Like there was economic liberalization, there were a lot of diaspora narratives going on. And so ideas of love were changing a little bit. Ideas of marriage were changing. I mean, look at Yade, right? Like for all its flaws, there's this one scene that popped up for me a few days ago, ironically, where like the girl Ritik is like supposed to marry
Oh, I
is
remember
having.
this.
Do you remember she's having a conversation with Jackie Shroff and he's asking her like, "Oh, like, do you want to live with parents after marriage?" And she's like, "Oh no." And like the way she delivers the answers are a little off, but I'm like, I don't see the problem here. So I think that was the beginning of rom-coms kind of becoming that space where tradition and modernity negotiated with each other a little bit. It just felt like love could be rebellious without being very alienating. And I think that was a little bit of that sweet spot where it's like, okay, it's kind of playing around with real things that are happening
And I
outside.
actually thought that like those scenes in those types of movies actually tried to ground like romantic love in existing structures of you have to still live with your family, you still have to care about your family, like Kabhi
Yeah.
Khushi Kabhi Gum being like the pinnacle of that, right? Like you can't, yes, when you feel like it's right, you can rebel against your father, but you can never forget about him. You can never stop
Yeah.
respecting him. You
Yeah.
can't be like, well, I've cut you off, I hate you.
Yeah.
It's sort of accepted as a well, you're not changing. I have to do something about it. But at the end of the day, like it still matters that we're all together. And I think the time it's like it's all about loving your
I
parents.
love
Like
your
no
parents.
matter what, it's all about loving your parents. And they knew the world was changing. People were falling in love and encourage that within your confines that feels what
Mhm.
feels comfortable. And
Exactly. I think that's why audiences kind of accepted that more because it didn't feel so far removed from maybe their,
yeah.
especially for like, I would imagine, I don't know how it was for people who grew up like, there was a lot of these diaspora stories that were set in London or in the US, and I didn't quite relate to them, to be honest. But I can imagine maybe people just going by what I've heard from people here who love these films, it did resonate with people who lived here.
When do you think was the turning point? Like, and when I say not like the year, but like what sets of movies do you feel like started jumping the shark or missing the boat? I have one, which is why I'm asking.
What's yours?
Mine is Bayfikre, and we've talked about this in the past,
Oh
but
my God, you're so right.
so I remember watching Bayfikre like around when it came out, 2016-ish, 2016, 2017. I remember reading a really interesting piece about like, oh, why is Bayfikre so bad? And it was kind of making fun of the whole premise of the movie, which is that these two people kind of like they're sort of commitment phobic and they like enter into essentially like a situationship. The premise itself isn't problematic or even that odd. Like we've seen other movies that kind of try and do that, but it enters like nobody works like this. Like nobody actually is in relationships like this. Like they give each other these dares that are just
Yeah.
horrifying. And the worst part is this is backed by an excellent soundtrack. So the music of that movie was amazing. But and this had Ranveer Singh and Vani Kapoor. And I remember watching it and being like, oh, this is, I know what this is trying to do, and wow, it's not landing. And I think that's where, like, I think after that, it feels like the switch really flipped. Like, I think we
Yeah.
started seeing fewer and fewer rom-coms. But we should also talk about why that happened. Like, do you feel like the audience changed? Do you feel like people don't want to see it? Like, everything at the end of the day comes back to like, are these movies making money? And do you feel like they were not making money anymore?
It might be a bit of both. I think a lot of it is about this is going to sound very cynical, but I think a lot of it is about what kind of stories the current political and cultural environment chooses to like reward. No secret, but in like recent years, films with nationalistic or patriotic themes, like especially these grand action-driven history-linked stories have been the ones getting the biggest budgets and the widest release sites, the most aggressive kind of marketing push. I mean, you look at like just in the last year, Dhurandhar, Chava, big historical and patriotic projects, huge part of the conversation. So then I feel like that agenda shapes what gets made and then what's positioned as buzzworthy, both commercially and culturally. And then like rom-coms, which tend to be smaller in scale, they stand less of a chance. So I don't think it's a matter of audiences not wanting romances anymore. You only need to look at like Sayara also in the last year for proof of that, right? Like viewers haven't rejected romance, but they've rejected what feels like half-hearted romance or romance that's just not quite as like emotionally available as the ones that we used to watch back in the day.
In December, I spent 3 weeks in India. I watched the Randa in a movie theater. I mean, incredible piece of film. Like in and theaters were full. There were people there watching it like for the third, fourth time. And I will say it was the kind of movie you go to a cinema to watch. And it did make me think like, is it also that people would watch romantic comedies, but would they go to theaters to watch it? And that's when I started thinking about Sayada. The reason people were so also surprised was because nobody kind of expected a romantic movie to do what it did, to do the business it did, to launch these careers. Incredible soundtrack again. Like it
And the
backs.
music is
Yeah, the music has become key, I think, to the success of so many movies. I think people were genuinely surprised because there's been so many re-releases recently. Like everyone's re-releasing romantic movies. And I think because they recognize there's an appetite, but nobody's really making those movies. So we've seen movies from 10, 20 years ago come back to theaters
yeah,
in India.
yeah,
And they're sold out. People are actually
yeah,
going to watch it. And a
yeah,
lot of it, I think, are people of our generation who grew up with those movies and then want to introduce them to whether it's their kids or sort of or younger people who've like
yeah,
heard about this but want to re-feel that magic again.
yeah.
And I think Sayara was like a breakout success because people were truly shocked that this was a movie that they wanted to go see and wanted to go see again and again and
Again
again.
and again. Yeah. 2 points on that. It's funny because they like re-released or they just showed DDLJ here back in the summer. And I went with a friend and I mean we were the people who like 31 years ago this movie invited us to come fall in love and boy did we, right? And so we were coming in with all the excitement and the nostalgia and like there was a bunch of younger kids in that audience as well. Younger kids meaning like maybe in their 20s. And they were watching it, and the parts that we would like clap at back in the day, they were laughing at. And I understood why. I'm like, okay, with a pair of fresh eyes, like, of course, these dialogues feel a little off. But I'm like, are we really coming into this with rose-tinted lenses? And then Sayara flipped that on its head. So I'm confused, to be honest.
I do think there's something about like cartoonish, caricaturish versus what Sayada did, which didn't feel like a caricature.
It's a
Um,
very fine line.
a lot of the older romantic comedies, and like the Valley is almost like almost a little too old. Like even you come back pull in a little bit more, but a lot of Dil To Pagal Hai is kind of like a bunch of caricatures, right?
Yeah.
Other than the three leads, like actually even the three leads, like Maya is a caricature.
She's amazing.
She's not real. The only real character in that movie is Karishma Kapoor, who feels like a real person.
Yeah.
You pull back even more, like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, like Pooh is a caricature and like it doesn't feel like a realistic human being actually behaves that way. And even the undying love for your parents like comes off a little bit like, okay, but you're kind of laying it on thick. I think that's why Sayara worked because it didn't feel fake. Still massive, and he recognizes her eyes from like on that far away, and he pulls in and he does all these like big declarations of love for her, and it goes both ways, but it still felt real. They were also still doing actions that people do, like they dated, and the clothing and everything felt very current.
Real. Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
just, I think it's also the cartoonish. I think some of that has to do with just how acting has evolved. Like directors used to instruct actors to be
Yeah.
big. I will never forget Hrithik Roshan and Kareena Kapoor in that movie with the parrot and the dog,
मैं प्रेम की दीवानी हूँ.
which is also a romantic comedy. Which is Dosti Karoge, by the way, like very similar.
Oh, oh my God. And which and then makes me think like, yeah, the acting was super over the top, but then were we enamored by just the chemistry between these stars? Like how much of it is the chemistry factor as well, you know? These rom-coms once felt powered by undeniable star chemistry between like there's
I
Shah
think
Rukh Kajol, there's Amir Juhi, Saif Rani, Karishma Govinda, Sridevi Anil, Madhuri Salman, Ajay Tabu, Akshay Chopra, like just
I think that's, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I think we still have good music. We've actually gotten better filmmaking. We arguably have people who are hotter, like, right, like better looking. And yet, what's missing, and I think it's exactly, and I was just going to say that I think what's missing is that we no longer have the crop of acting talent, or as many of them, they do exist, but as many of them anymore. And that combined with the changing sort of attitude and what audiences want has essentially created this perfect storm where a romantic movie has to really be so good and that to break through all of that. I don't know what's happening during as these movies are making it, but something's going wrong. And I wanted to talk about the most recent romantic movie that was released. I was in India when Tu Meri Main Tera Tu Meri came out. It was positioned
yeah.
as this like, okay, you watched Dhurandhar, you loved it. Now it's time for like a palate cleanser, like time for something that doesn't make you close your eyes because there's so much
Yeah.
violence on the screen. Come watch Tu Meri Main Tera.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh wait, nobody's watching this movie. Like just empty theaters. Nobody was there. Dhurandhar, meanwhile, is still going. So, and I was like, wait, so they're marketing it in the right way. So, what went on the filmmaking process that went wrong? Is it just that the stars no longer hold that emotional appeal anymore?
I think back then we went for the stars first and the story and the movie after, right? Like actors were they were cast into these personas and duos that evolved over time. They were repeatedly cast in stuff. And so we were revisiting a dynamic each time that we already knew and loved, and that's why we were there. We were there for them. So there was almost like this emotional shorthand we created with them. We brought that history into the theater, and I think filmmakers leaned into that. And today's industry, and again, I think this is largely an industry issue, but it prioritizes like individual branding over these like long-term kind of partnership kind of things as well. So it just makes it harder for chemistry to feel cumulative.
I have one more thought when you were talking because I think it's also we see these stars too much now. We like Ananya Pandey is on Reels all day. Like I don't.
Ranbir Kapoor's on Reels all day.
Right. So like there's no more the remove. And I think that's what, to be honest, has really worked for like, arguably the biggest stars of of this year, like the biggest male stars of last year were Vicky Kaushal because of Shava and Ranveer Singh, who just showed the haters, right? Like he just came back and was like, you wanted something, here you go, the biggest movie of all time. Like never talk to me again. The true stars aren't really so visible. And so that creates a sense of remove. Whereas
Yeah.
you see these people too often. And I think
Yeah.
that loses the air of charm and mystery, which I think romantic movies really need more than anything
Yeah.
else to for
Yeah.
them to work.
To kind of wrap things up, if like another type of Sayara released today, would you still be as into it, or do you think Sayara was kind of like the shock factor of having something like that after so long?
Oh, if anyone's watching, I beg you to make more romantic movies. I would watch them all day, every day. I think Sayada also was a great, Han Pandey, they kept them very out of the public eye, right? Like
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
knew anything about
Deliberately.
these two
Deliberately.
people. And it was done as part of the marketing of the
Right.
movie. Mystery goes a really, really long way.
Long way. Yeah.
And I think if we look back to like marketing campaigns of classic romantic movies like Mohabbatein, like you kind of knew what they were about, but you still went because you knew that the details were not in the trailers. Like Tu
Yeah.
Me Metera, the entire movie was in the trailer, and I was like, okay, cool, seen
Like
it.
good. We're good. Yeah.
Looks good. We can't end without asking, because I have to ask you this question. K3G2 is happening. How are your feelings? Like, are you excited about it?
No, I'm like, don't touch it. First of all, okay, I'm unpopular opinion. I didn't love it, even the original, right? Like, I loved it because everybody was loving it and it was all fun and blah blah. But like, I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Remake of it, I'll have to see like kind of how they evolve the storyline. But I feel like they kind of already have done it with Rocky Rani. Like Rocky Rani to me was almost like a
Mm,
modern day K3G, right? Where it was like you
thought
respect your
about that.
parents, you don't just completely reject the system of family, but you kind of carve your own way and you invite them to evolve with you. So that I'm like it that they did it. They don't need
And
to do
you
it
also
again.
aid and abet your aging father or grandfather
Find love,
in
yes.
an
Refine.
affair
Yeah,
while his wife is alive.
full blown affair.
No, I mean, rest in peace, Dharmendra. But that entire track actually like gave me such a I hated that whole part of the movie. I was
It
almost
didn't
like
need to be there.
it didn't need to be there.
It didn't need to be there, but I like that. I mean, for all its like flaws or whatever, I
It was
really
good.
enjoyed that movie. Just because I was like, this feels like it feels like a modern day Case Ricci. So I'm not quite sure why they feel they need to do this again. You?
Um, but I do think some of it is a recognition that there is something missing. Basically, there's money on the table. People will pay for romance. They just need to really make a romantic movie that's
Well,
it
that's
ticks all the boxes that we talked about earlier.
yeah. I mean, it's they're taking a big swing because it's a beloved film, and if they get it wrong, like then
Oh, it's gonna
they
be so
face the
sad.
wrath of an entire generation. So.
Last question.
Um,
Favorite rom-com?
This gets into my rapid fire.
Oh, okay. Well, let's end with
Yeah.
your rapid
Okay.
fire.
It's not a rapid fire, but like
No, but let's do it rapid fire. Okay,
okay, let's do a
like
fine
coffee
one.
with Karan.
Okay. First one. You're having a bad day. Which Bollywood rom-com are you putting on without thinking?
Dil to pagal hai.
Okay, not bad.
You?
I would go. This is not. You're gonna think it's not a rom-com, but I'm using it because it's my favorite. Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na. It's not a
Love it.
rom-com. It's coming
No,
of age, but there's
still, no, I see that as well. Yeah.
okay. Next. Which Bollywood song best describes your romantic personality and why?
Oh, I don't know.
You can take a moment.
Kabira from Ye Jawani Diwani.
Oh, I love that song. It's so good. Why?
I don't know. I just like that song is just gorgeous. And it's
Okay.
got multiple different renditions too, which I like.
Okay. Okay.
You?
Um, Originally I was gonna say that one from Action Replay about not getting married. A warning. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But for me it's probably Saibo from Show in the City.
Ah,
I
beautiful
haven't
song.
seen the movie, but so I don't know the context, but it's all about like a
Gorgeous
slow
song.
burn, which I'm all about a slow burn romance. So
Gorgeous song.
yeah.
Really, really good.
Okay, what's one Bollywood
Oh, I
rom-com?
have to change my answer.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's Iktara from
Wake up sing.
and it's because
Yeah.
my husband and I when we met like 15 years ago, that was when that movie had come out and like I remember we were driving somewhere really far away and for some reason I just kept playing that song over and over again. So it's actually
Oh,
like weirdly attached to like my
oh, that's
relationship.
sweet.
Yeah,
That's
it was
very
just such a
sweet.
nice song.
Yeah, I love that song. What's one Bollywood rom-com everyone loves that you secretly don't?
I don't really like Mohabbat.
Okay.
Yeah,
Totally
it kind
fair.
of just annoys me. I mean, other
Yeah.
than, Uday Chopra,
Oh, of
we've
course, your
discussed him.
favorite of all
But
time.
overall, as a package, it's kind of just, it's extremely long.
Yeah.
What about yours?
Kal Ho Na Ho, without a doubt. It's
Oh,
not funny. It's not romantic. It's filled with what I can only describe as full-on cartoons.
and also manipulation,
It's manipulative. Sweetu is irritating.
but
Frankie is
also,
irritating. Jazz is
but
irritating.
I
Naina
still
is super
cry
irritating.
every single time I watch it. I just can't stop myself.
Oh
Okay.
God. On the flip side, what's a rom-com that you think deserves way more love than it probably got?
मैं हूं ना.
Oh, again, I haven't seen it yet.
It's amazing. And I don't think it like didn't get love. I think it was actually like a really good movie. But I think Farah Khan I think that was her directorial debut.
Mhm.
It's her best movie. I truly think she's got a really good eye for like making fun of herself
Mm,
and making fun of Bollywood while also loving Bollywood.
loving
And
it.
that
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I want her to make more movies. Like, please.
Yeah. And I think that's such a mark of like true love for it, right? Knowing how to lovingly like rib something.
Yeah. There's nothing better than the ending credits of Mehuna. Like if
Oh yeah, I've
ending
seen those
credits are just they make me like love the industry.
for sure.
Yours?
Ek Main aur Ek Tu.
Yes.
It's a
Great
rom-com that,
movie.
yeah, it's like not trying to sell you a fantasy. I appreciate, like, spoiler alert, sorry, but I appreciate that they don't end up together.
Great movie.
Yeah, one
Adorable family. And
adorable.
one of my favorite songs, which is Auntie G. Auntie G, get up and dance. It's such a bop.
You're full of surprises, Shireen. We kind of touched on this, but last one, if you had to remake one Bollywood rom-com today, same story, new cast, which one are you choosing?
I just wouldn't.
No, you have to. It'll be a bad movie, but you have to.
I will remake Befikre. I will do it. I think it had promise.
Who would you
It
cast?
had the ingredients.
Who would you cast?
Oh, I would keep the cast. I think the cast was good. The cast was good. The music was good. The setting was good. The story wasn't even that bad. It was just the execution.
It just didn't need Aditya Chopra.
You?
मेरी यार की शादी है. I thought the cast actually let it down a little bit, so I would cast it again with Ishan Khatter as Uday's character, Rohit Saraf as the Jimmy Shergill character, Aneet Pada as the bride,
Love it.
and like Rasha Thadani as Bipasha's character.
Rajat Thadani.
Yeah,
Did you
I
do that?
know. I was like, I need somebody in the age group. So,
We need like a siren, not her.
okay, then I don't know who like a siren is either. Janvi is too
We
like,
don't have any sirens left. Bring back the Bollywood rom-com.
bring back the Bollywood rom-coms. This is our plea to the industry.
Thanks so much for watching.
Bye. Tell me how it was.